Our brains are picking up things and learning about how the world works, good and bad, helpful and not helpful. It's picking up thoughts about who we are as humans. It's picking it all up. And much like the lint roller, the more we roll over that same spot, the more likely stuff is going to stick. If you're exposed to something repeatedly, like that lint roller, rolling over that same spot again and again, it's hard to let it not stick to you. You become a compilation of everything you are picking up. And that is how we form this inner dialogue we have with ourselves and eventually our beliefs about who we are. But the good news is the brain can be reprogrammed. We can build new neural pathways and let old unhelpful ones die off. And over time, this changes how we see the world and most importantly, how we see ourselves. Because the truth is, someone who loves themselves well loves the world around them well, which frankly, we could all use more of. Welcome to the Love Your Brain podcast, the podcast designed for everyday people who are ready to hop off the negative thought hamster wheel and enjoy a less hostile environment in their own brains. Our brains are where we live our entire lives, and I'm on a mission to help people see that they have everything that they need to make it a happier place to be. So join us for this episode of the Love Your Brain podcast. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Love Your Brain podcast, or welcome if you're new. I don't know about you, but lately when I approach someone and ask how they're doing, I hear a bit of defeat in their voice. Whether it's because of the crazy winter storms that have been going through the US, the post-holiday blues, or even just the state of the world in general. There is a lot that can feel sad or discouraging right now, and for reasons that may feel out of our control. But I hope today's episode shows you the magic power that you have to slowly, over time, have your own part in feeling differently in your own brain and impacting the world while you do it. So, let's get started doing just that. Now, do you ever wonder what it would be like if real life was like it is in the movies, where you could hear people's inner dialogue about themselves? Have you ever seen one of those clips in a movie where it's shot from the perspective of someone walking down a busy street, and each person that walks by, you get to hear a clip of what they're thinking in their brain? Well, what's interesting is we do get little tidbits of insight like this every day, but we often miss it or overlook it or don't even understand where it's coming from. But this insight comes across in so many ways. It comes across in how we observe people talking to others, how those individuals respond to challenges, how they look at life. Our inner dialogue, our inner narrative, quite literally impacts every single part of our life. And this dialogue is created by the neural pathways in our brain. That inner dialogue and those neural pathways are programmed over your entire lifetime by the words spoken to you or even around you. It's programmed by the thoughts of those you spent daily life with. It's programmed by your family, your friends, the people you went to school with, and even that babysitter you had when you were in third grade. Everything you experience impacts your own inner dialogue in some way. And you know this is true because there's probably something you heard said to you when you were younger that sticks with you even today, good or bad. It's had an impact in how you show up in the world today. This is going to sound like the silliest analogy, but think about a lint roller. When you use a lint roller, it's because usually you're trying to pick something up off of a surface like dog hair or lint. And well, in my case, paper. I recently accidentally washed my laundry with a pamphlet from a state park in it and then had to lint roll the entire batch of laundry. It was absolutely the worst. But my bonding with the lint roller did give me some thoughts on lint rollers in general. Here's the thing though, sometimes we lint roll over something that's not what we intended to stick to us. For example, maybe there's glitter on a shirt that you want that glitter to stay on the shirt, but the lint roller doesn't know not to stick to that. It's sticky, and if you roll over it, it's just picking up everything it comes in contact with, everything that sticks to it. And that is the same way our brains operate. Each thing we encounter in life can impact our brains and build neural pathways. These neural pathways of thought, which thought enough times, become beliefs that form how we see ourselves and the world around us. Our brains are picking up things and learning about how the world works, good and bad, helpful and not helpful. It's picking up thoughts about who we are as humans, good and bad. It's picking it all up. And much like the lint roller, the more we roll over that same spot, the more likely stuff is going to stick. If you're exposed to something repeatedly, like that lint roller, rolling over that same spot again and again, it's hard to let it not stick to you. It's going to pick up the lint and the sparkle all the same. And say you're a lint roller that's rolled over a bunch of fuzz over and over again. Well, eventually, you, the lint roller, start to look like a big thing of fuzz, right? You become a compilation of everything you are picking up. And that is how we form this inner dialogue we have with ourselves and eventually our beliefs about who we are. All those experiences and exposures we've had in life, some once and some many times over, they all stick at varying levels and impact how we see ourselves and the world. And I can tell you from my perspective of someone who's done this work for multiple decades now, what breaks my heart so often is I'll encounter someone. Maybe it's someone, say, later in life, maybe in their 70s, who's just so stuck in this negative thought pattern. If I spend enough time with them, I can see how their neural pathways have formed in a way that is just not serving them. They've been exposed to so much that has impacted their own self image in a negative way, and it just breaks my heart because it's never all true. Never. But the good news is, even at 70 or whatever your age is, it can be changed. The brain can be reprogrammed. We can build new neural pathways and let old unhelpful ones die off. And over time, this changes how we see the world and, most importantly, how we see ourselves. Because the truth is, someone who loves themselves well loves the world around them well, which frankly, we could all use more of. But it does take work and it does take intentionality, creating new neural pathways, new thoughts that eventually, if thought many times over, create new beliefs. And the cool part about these new beliefs is once we have actual new beliefs, that's when we don't have to put effort into thinking them anymore. It just becomes like our default. So, yes, initially reprogramming our brains takes a lot of work and intentionality, but if we keep at it, a lot of it becomes automatic. And who doesn't want to have automatic thoughts about themselves that are amazing? I certainly could use more of that, but some people have lived with negative inputs for so long, they legitimately don't even know what a good thought about themselves would look and feel like. And that is what I want to open the door on today. And if you stick around until the end, I'm also going to share a new resource I'm going to be offering that will make this process that much easier. But for today, let's just start with a basic example, something that most people struggle with. And that's when it comes to thoughts about themselves, what you think about yourself when you make a mistake. The cool part about what I'm going to share with you today is it's going to be just as helpful for you and those around you. So, yay for that. So let's think about it. When you make a mistake, your brain likely goes to being critical. Maybe in your brain you hear something like, "What were you thinking? Why did you do that? Why did you let that get to you?" So on and so forth. And you'll see often the dialogue we're having with ourselves is rooted in a critical question: why or what? And think about how you feel when you hear these questions. How do they feel in your body? Do they make you tense up? Does it make you feel like running away? Does it make you feel angry? Usually, these critical questions tend to create emotions for us that actually can throw us off course and are not the most helpful. So, what if we made a mistake and instead of asking ourselves an unhelpful critical question, we jump to the best conclusion we can? Let me repeat that again. When we make a mistake, we are going to jump to the best conclusion we can. And maybe that's new for you. Maybe it's new for you to try and jump to the best conclusion about something. But today we are going to give it a whirl. And if it feels too far reaching to do it for yourself, try and make this scenario like you're talking to someone you adore, a small child, your pet, a group of people you think highly of, whatever it is. So we are going to look at this mistake and start our next thought with, of course. And then we're going to add something that makes this mistake make sense. Because, side note, the mistakes always make sense. So let's take something as simple as you spilling milk you were trying to get into your cup. You feel frustrated with yourself in the moment, but instead of asking a negative why question or what question, like why do you always do that or why are you so careless, whatever the phrase is in your head, instead, we are going to say, of course, and then jump to the best conclusion to explain this. So we are going to look at the story around the mistake that happened. Did you spill the milk when you were rushing on the way to work? Were you tired because your kid had you up last night? Were you distracted because you're stressing about that friend that's going through a hard time? Find the best conclusion to explain this and put an of course in front of it. So, for example, of course you spilled the milk. You're tired from your kid keeping you up all night. Or, of course you spilled the milk. You're rushing to get to work because you're so overwhelmed right now. Or, of course you spilled the milk. You are really distracted because that friend you care so much about is really struggling. So let's take a pause. Now that you've heard those, how is your body feeling? How do you feel when I say those statements? How is your nervous system? How does it respond when I say, of course that happened because you're experiencing X, Y, or Z? It should feel soothing, almost like a balm on a wound. This way of speaking to ourselves moves us forward from that mistake in a meaningful way, whereas the critical questions shut us down and build a neural pathway of defeat. Which is why when someone we adore makes a mistake, that we can much more easily talk to them this way because we want them to feel comforted when they make a mistake. Sometimes that's harder to prioritize for ourselves, but it's actually just as important, and dare I say, more so. Because here is the wild thing. The better we care for ourselves and think about ourselves, the better we are to others. But the better we are to others does not often translate into being better to ourselves. So, in fact, the most efficient route to having the biggest impact on the world, if that's your jam, is to actually focus on being good to yourself first so that you can just naturally treat others better. So that you don't have to do those two things separately. It's just like you get 2-for-1 deal. That's a side note, but I think a value one in this exercise. So, as we transition our response to ourselves to, of course, and then jumping to the best conclusion, we will actually start to build a new neural pathway of compassion. This fosters growth and care for who we are, and slowly over time will start to suffocate the old neural pathway of negativity. And this work isn't about just living in sunshine and rainbows. It's reprogramming our brain to create an environment where there is room for things like mistakes, and people who speak to themselves more positively are people who feel more confident, they feel good about taking risks, and can make mistakes and bounce back. And they are people who also create the same for others. They are people who talk positively about others. They encourage others to try new things and remind them of their resiliency. So, anyone who tries to tell me this work of loving our brains isn't impactful, I say, this is, in fact, the kind of work that changes the world because it changes how all of us show up for each other in the world. So, if you are someone who is feeling discouraged by the state of the world, or maybe just really wanting to make a big positive impact, or maybe you just want to stop the repeating narrative in your head of all the awful things that have been said to you over time, this practice is a perfect fit for all those scenarios. So, do this work of reframing for yourself and maybe even do it for the world too, knowing that the more you love your own brain, the more you can start to love every brain around you a little bit more. And if this exercise feels challenging or really far from what is familiar or comfortable for you, that's okay. I am going to be opening my virtual doors for one-on-one sessions again. I'm not sure how long these will be happening, but I really feel pulled to make myself more available to work with some of you one-on-one and to help you start building new neural pathways and seeing actual change in your life and how you experience your life. For now, these sessions will be 30 minutes each, and during that time, we'll be doing a check-in, addressing a negative thought that you've been struggling with, or some way your brain is working that is difficult for you, and we'll break it down. We'll put both our intuitive brains together to find a way to reprogram that thought or way of thinking. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in, check the show notes. See if there's a booking link available, and if so, find a slot that will work for you. And we'll get to work on helping you to love your brain that much more. I know I went over a lot in this episode, so try listening to it once more. Practice with a negative thought that you might be struggling with. And leave a comment or connect with me on social media. Let me know how this works for you. No matter what your brain is telling you today, your brain is worth loving. Make sure you're subscribed and send this to a friend who might need to hear it today too. All right, have a great week, guys. hope you found something helpful here today on the Love Your Brain podcast. Maybe a laugh or a feeling of validation, or maybe just a few moments to have company while you do your laundry. Whatever you take from it, I hope you enjoyed your time and leave feeling empowered to be more you every day. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on the next episode, and leave a review. I'd love to hear what you think. Have a great one.